We shouldn't be surprised. We should be powerfully prepared. Again, like David, the Goliath on a global scale is screaming. Some are not hearing. Others are backing away, further away from the sounds, up into the rocks where nothing happens. No defeat of the enemy, no power of God happens when we hide in the rocks. Instead, outrage of the enemy's presence is where we should stand. In the power, the presence, the backing, the confidence of his hand in our lives, the authority he gives us, the blood of the Lamb, that by that blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony, they overcame the dragon himself. Revelation 12. So, what we, and I'll say this, and I know I answer too long sometimes. In saying this, what we've seen and what we've discussed right here is a scratch of what we're going to see in an exponential way coming in the next 6 months, the next year. If you think in terms of violence and all the stuff breaking out, behind the scenes is a growing mysterium, release of powers, more demons, more presence, more power, more advance, and that's the biblical pictures. A simple reading of 2 Thessalonians 2 gives you that Holy Spirit given, it's like God ripped off Hell's Kitchen and said, hey, here's what they're doing. Here's the operative presence. Here's the sequential development of the satanic evolution of the world. Be prepared. Be wise. Look at the world as it's going crazy. Explain to the world the devil's on your neck and preach the indestructible, glorious, brilliant gospel of hope to every single creature we can find.
Amen, Russ. We're up against the top of the hour. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, got a few listener questions for you that have come in via email. We're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report on this Wednesday, June 17th, 2015. Our guest tonight is Mr. Russ Dizdar. His website, shatterthedarkness.net. That's shatterthedarkness.net. Our number 2 of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this Wednesday, June 17th, with our guest, Mr. Russ Dizdar. Again, his website is shatterthedarkness.net. His latest book is The Black Awakening. It's a must-read. It's eye-opening, and it talks about what is happening, what has happened, and what we expect to come. Russ, I have a question from a listener. She asks, my question, what if you were sexually abused before and with multiple people and you don't know what happened because you had lost time? And I know you deal with this, dealing with many SRA victims. What would your advice be to her?
Sure. First, sorry, it's sad to know that it occurred. It's an outrage. It should have never happened. And number one, Jesus knows how to bring the healing and restoration in your life, and his presence and power will be beautiful in your life. But let me answer the question is this, in this way. Either way, whether it's in satanic ritual abuse, everyone in that field has been so traumatized they've been split purposely with subpersonalities, and so there's a lot of missing time issues. But you don't have to be an SRA to have missing time or to have blocked memory. Here's how it works. If a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old is sexually abused in a really bad way, very traumatic way, the way that a person responds is that they're pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed to the limits to where if they don't split, let me create an alternative part of them to carry all of that trauma and pain. It's kind of like the idea of the beach ball effect, pushed underwater. An 8-year-old little girl, boy, whatever, goes through this massive trauma. It happens again and again, and so they kind of dissociate and push it way, way back and way, way down. And so it's like taking a part of your memory that's very toxic and very emotionally packed and so forth, and thrusting it way, way, way back in your human experience, memory, consciousness. So that, like beach balls held underwater, as long as they're held down strong enough, long enough, I mean, you really are not affected. But if you start thinking, when you're 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, and all of a sudden you realize you have no memory of, being a fifth grader. You have no memory of many experiences in your life. Then, that memory is there. It's either buried because, a 5 and a 6 and a 7, 8-year-old, they don't know how to process. How do you process this kind of violent experience? And so, thrusting it way down in the back of consciousness and memory, and because it's so scary, and so it's been simply put down. For many who have been abused, it's been put down. For the SRA, they've been purposely pushed to the point of splitting, and say a person's name, and this is a random name. Say a person's name is Janice. And so Janice goes through all this satanic ritual abuse, is split, and another part of her is created. Janice may not remember, the parts of her will remember what occurred, but it's encoded in those other parts of her. So she will have really lost memory completely, but the memory is embedded in the other personalities. Now, with a person that did not split, but they did bury their memory, that's just it. The memory is buried with the experience, and so you have blocked time periods. Now, I mentioned, Psalm 139, search me, O Lord, and see if there's anything, offensive in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. I use that in the sense of saying, may the Spirit of God come in and search, Lord, here am I. You can present yourself to the Lord, here am I. I want to know what occurred, where these blocks of memory are gone, where I don't remember. Lord, I know it's going to be scary, it's going to be hard, it's going to be, tough to look at, but somewhere buried and locked down in there is the actual experience. Now, when the memories of the past begin to rise, all of a sudden the person can get very agitated, very fearful, because the fear and the terror and the confusion and the anger and the shame has been buried. As it begins to surface, you may begin to feel all of that until eventually, sometimes in the middle of the night, you have a dream or you have a flash of it, or during the day, a flash of it, and all of a sudden it begins to come up. And it can be painful. You're allowed to cry. You're allowed to, remember who it was that did it. And so there's a whole lot of issue. The number one thing I'm going to tell you is this: never be ashamed to bring it all before Jesus. I say it this way: bring the blood and the guts and the harm and the abuse, bring it right before the throne of grace and say, Jesus, look what they've done. Here's my pain. Here's my harm. He bore all of that on the cross. He's got the ability to pour the healing in you and to help release you and to lead you what you need to do to release the perpetrators, to release them into his hands for justice, and to lead you to really find a complete freedom and a real sense of healing. He wants to get down there and bring the healing, but normally when there is a complete block of memory in certain ages of a person's life, especially childhood, then at the very most it's SRA, MPD. At the very least, which is bad enough, it's abuse that's been buried so deep it's not come back up yet.
Okay. Wow. Russ, in your book, you talk about satanic ritual abuse, as you were just referencing just now here in this, answering that question. And what I was taking notes from your book in satanic ritual abuse, I think you reference it as marriage to the beast. And you state that, number one, SRA, or satanic ritual abuse, is most secretive, sophisticated, and powerful. Secondly, it's extremely evil, extremely demonic. It's got extreme demonic powers. Thirdly, the victims, they're born, raised, or chosen supernaturally energized. I'm looking here. I can't read my own writing here, but I think that you had given in numbers, like in the early 1990s, there were 2.4 million, and now up to 40 million and increasing. And you also note for SRAs, a massive underground network built city to city, coven to coven. Every city has got covens. And then You also write about their agenda. They believe they're advancing the globalists, the New World Order, the agenda of Satan, and you reference too 4 generations of victims, the children, and just go on and on. I mean, this is huge. I mean, people really need to understand how widespread and how sophisticated, how evil, how secretive, how pervasive this is, and what what the extent of the underground network, even in wherever you're listening from, you will have, based on your research, Russ. Wherever these people, wherever anyone's listening from, you're going to have an underground satanic network. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and we even did on the classes we've done live, Doug. We've done material on this to say if you really want to find out in your city how to find out where, and we have some principles that we've done in a I think a 14-hour teaching. It's free, all of it's free, called Dark Rituals, Dark Powers. If you want to find it in your city, we can show you some of the principles by which. And here's the reason why: Ezekiel chapter 8, God willed it to be found out, and I believe that's true here. That if there's believers that want to find and want God to use them in the redemptive approach to the victim and in an aggressive praying against the demonic side, if you want in your city, there's some principles that we've given that you'll be able to find it. You'll be able to engage it.
Mm. Can you tell us what some what some signs or what to look for? I mean. I don't know if people should be going out and searching for this kind of stuff, but if you happen happen across some things, because Joe and I were out doing something here not too long ago, and came across a situation that was obviously satanic, and I'll just leave it at that. But I mean, if you stumble upon something, what would what would you, Russ, use to identify or say, hey, wait a minute, this is satanic in nature? I mean, is it,
Sure, and I always started at this ground level saying, anybody that's going to really engage all of this, number one, be dedicated, as any believer should be, to becoming the most powerful, knowledgeable, strong, growing, constantly growing believer. Anybody who's committed that way, having development of faith, anybody that's weak that wants to hop into it's going to get blown away. I'm going to even say that I believe there's been officers that I know that just like, well, I'm a believer and I got a gun and nothing's going to happen to me. I'm telling you, I've seen it in my own interaction over the years with law enforcement individuals that got involved. They get blown away. Spiritually, and the curses are real. I mean, the rituals are real, and if you have no protection and no defense, let alone offense, you can be deeply, horribly affected. And believers, like look at again Peter, he's going to stand up and die for Jesus, and yet Jesus warns him Satan's going to do something, and he got kind of blown out of the waters for a little bit. We've all gotten blown out of the waters at times when we didn't know what to do. And that's what we need to get back up and grow again, get back up and learn again, say, Lord, and learn what we need to do. But I would say that in any city, and again, the one course that I only got 14 hours up. Listen, I apologize. I know there's listeners that have been waiting for me, to get. I am literally. I mean, you guys are. I'm always running behind, but we're really behind even in our getting the MP3s and teachings out. So in the live training classes on occult ritual crime and on spiritual warfare, there's hundreds of hours on our website, free, all of it free. So you can get more there. But Dark Rituals, Dark Powers goes over indicators like the first MP3, 7 indicators in your city. Part of those indicators that there's really, I believe, real dark rituals are being done is when there's a heightened level of over your city. It seems like there's a spiritual cloud, a spiritual darkness that is really just manifest over the whole of the city. There's more violence and bizarre violence. There's more gangland activity, human trafficking issues, a lot of drug issues, corruption in law enforcement,